You have to go to your temples for proof and validation and research and see the temples. It says the carving from the temples of Ipidasut, Karnak is called today. Sahu Nepet, Orion was Lord of the heavens. So here we see that this is Sahu, this is Neb, and this is Pet. So our ancestors saw Orion was Lord of the heavens. They carved it on the temples. But why did they put it there? That's what we want to look at. They saw, as we go back to the scriptures, we're going to bring the scriptures in the court of law. Well, is it in the scriptures? Yes, it's in the scriptures. In Amos, chapter 5, verse 8, it says, "Seeketh him that maketh the 7 stars of Orion." Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seeketh him that maketh the 7 stars of Orion. Well, our ancestors saw that Ashra, our spiritual father, and the Zep-Tepi, for our spirit to go back to him, to rise up our caress, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the constellation of Orion long before it was in Amos and the scriptures was even in existence. This is the Zep-Tepi, or the first time of creation. Our ancestors saw through the constellation, through the heavenly body, through astrotheology, through the cosmos, the first divine mother and father for them to live for eternity. A set represented Sahu, called Ceres today, and a Ashra represented Orion. Our spiritual mother and father that we carved on the temples. Here we see the earliest story of Ashra, who had an evil brother named Set. Many versions of the story, who got 72 conspirators to crucify him. Here we see this is long before the Cain and Abel story. You got it carved on the temples. And although you see it carved on the temples on the outside, still on the inside, they're still beautifully painted black. It's through this story of the union of Ashra and Ashra's resurrection, through the union of Ashra and Aset, they have a holy child. It's told on the papyruses where the name paper came from. We see Tahuti, we did not worship animals, but Tahuti, the divine nectar, the messenger corresponding to Gabriel in the gospel, announces to the goddess Aset that she give a divine immaculate conception and virgin birth. So here you had this spiritual story where Tahuti came, who was a spiritual law, said Aset would have a holy child. This is long before Gabriel, the angel of the Lord, came through the back door and told Mary that she was going to have the immaculate conception. Now, our story was more spiritual because Tahuti gave the call, and Amun came to Ashra and said that your wife Aset would have an immaculate conception. Now, I don't know about you, brother, but your wife came to you and said an angel of the Lord in the back room came and said that she had immaculate conception. I don't know if you go for it or not. I don't know. But that's belief. On these temples, right here, Dandara, at the temple of Het-Heru, let's go inside these temples, brothers and sisters, and going inside these temples, here we can see an ancient spiritual story where Ashra, here we see he's born in a manger. But one of the things that I make sure of is that we get accounts that's not going to be revealed to tour groups who come through here. That's what I try to do. Reveal the information that normally would be passed by and not even mentioned to many of the Europeans because it would conflict with their European Western world through their own European white supremacy thinks that everything started with them, or think that their whole European Christian concept started with them. This is a tour book. It's good to pick these little books up. And it's written by the Mormons. The Mormons who write these books. The Mormons. Okay? But the Mormons are heavily into Kemet. Now, this is a chapel. This chapel is where Heru was born, in a manger, at December the 25th. Okay? Now, here's the book. Let me read it. You have the book? That's page 18. Here's the chapel, right where you are. Is that the same chapel? Yes. Okay, you see where I have yellow there, right? Right. Okay, so let me read it. This court and chapel, from a special unit within the great temple, they were used for the celebration of the day of the child in his cradle, a festival commemorating the birth of Horus, which, coming as it did at the close of the Egyptian year, offers a curious resemblance to the Christian festival of Christmas. How could it be a curious resemblance when this predates European Christianity? What was the symbol of this temple right here? What zoomorphic form?
Cow.
The cow. Now, have you often wondered why the cow is always in the manger?
Yeah.
This is Hathor right here with the cow's ears that looked over Haru in his birth at December the 25th. Here you see a pictorial version of their painting of the European Jesus wrapped up like the mummy that was called the Kwesi, that we'll get into in the lecture series, showing you right here, why is it a cow? No one had never asked, why is the cow in the manger? Because the cow was Haru. And when Haru was born in the manger, this was his surrogate mother, the cow. That the cow symbolically plays the surrogate mother on over the European pictorial versions of the Bible that we have right here. So again, you can see where it all came from. I know this is hard for some folks, but you have come back to see it. Not one group, by the thousands who come here, is getting this like you're getting it. Just like you, I came here and the ancestors were speaking from these temples. Relieve us from religious persecution. Relieve us from the beast of the Western world. We are here for a total different reason that other people come back here. This is why we have to walk in the spirit of Ma'at. Leave Isfet behind, evil, and come and see the truth. Now you see the cow Haru over the king horse that you see right here. That every king that was born, like horse born in this chapel right here. Put this in your own mental court of law. Let's see all the evidence. And once all the evidence is presented, we can see where European Western version of Christianity copied from this. And judge it for yourself. You've heard their side of the story? Take time out and hear your ancestors' side of the story. We're not saying for you to believe it, but just like the court of law of Ma'at, let's put it on the Makaru. Let's put it in the witness stand of truth, justice, and righteousness on the square. And we want to hear the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And then judge it in this mental court of law. Now, the surrogate mother is Haru. Her symbol is a cow. Why the cow? Because she represented the great Mother Earth. Now let's look at this, because on their own Torah books right here, a closer view of that, it says this. This court and chapel formed a special unit within the great temple. They were used for the celebration of the day of the child in his cradle. A festival commemorating the birth of Horus, that we called Haru, which coming as it did at the close of Egyptian year, offers a curious resemblance to the Christian festival of Christmas. A curious resemblance. Thousands of years before their stuff, but it's a curious resemblance. Not only that, they go on to say that this small temple was called the Menmezi, or meaning the birth house in the ancient Kemetic, or they call Egyptian. The reliefs on the wall portray the divine birth and childhood of an infant, Haru. Now here we see the rites which related to Horus, Osiris, Horus, the father, and his death. This is where we get the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost from. And this early trihood of Asar, Aset, and Haru, brothers and sisters. On these temples you see Haru. She was a Tanihisian, or what is known as a Nubian goddess that came up from the south. Why did they got Hathor, or Haru, that our ancestors called him, over the European Jesus? Is that animal worship going on in the manger? Let's go after this now. See the cow, Hathor, over the European Jesus? Our ancestors always placed Hathor over the Pharaoh to rule because he was the divine king. He was called the King of Kings, the Sarah, the Son of God. Every king or sultan represented that this was the surrogate mother was Hathor, and her symbol was the cow. So every sultan king was the Haru king, who was protected by the Holy Mother, and her name was also Mary, meaning love, that was changed to Mary. By the way, you shouldn't say love. That's white folks' term. Okay? We call it Murray, that they corrupted it into Mary. That's literally a copy off of your tombs thousands of years ago, where you see the cow was always over the Haru king, as you see the cow over the white Jesus.